welcome to all of you here.
Okay, I'm going to sit because I can't be in the
Fine.
camera otherwise.
Thank you.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to assemble together as council, administration, and as our audit team. And we're grateful for the opportunity we have to serve the residents of the town of Cardston. And this time we pray a blessing upon those who are first responders and those who are on various responsibilities serving the citizens of this country and those in the healthcare profession. Pray that they'll all be blessed at this time. We pray for help as we deal with the consequences and the various problems that arise through this virus, and pray that there will be measures taken and that things will begin to go back to normal at a future time. And we pray that that will be in the not too distant future. We're grateful for the community that we live in and for the responsibilities that we have, and we're grateful for the position that this town is in and our financial position and others. And pray a blessing upon this meeting, that we'll have thy spirit with us. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I noticed that the auditors are still blocked.
Oh, he can unmute himself if he wants.
Okay, that's good to see you. And we're going to call this meeting to order. It's the 14th of April, and it's a regular town council meeting. We have an agenda on the front of us, and if you are comfortable adopting it, need a motion to do so. So please signal with your hand.
I could do that.
Okay, please go ahead. You just...
Councillor Barnes, I move to adopt the agenda for the meeting of the April 14th, 2020.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you so much. So the agenda is now adopted. We have the media, Corey McCarthy, who is piping this meeting through his own channel. And we have some delegations here. So welcome to all of you and thank you for being here. We have Mr. Sean Cook from Mercer Wild Group, and he is the associate. And we also have our own Mr. Hawkins Coyen that will be presenting the financial statement for 2019. So at this point, we will ask our delegation to come forth and to give us their opinions on the financial reporting, or I would say more correctly, to present the financial reporting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mayor. So we just before this meeting, we met with the audit committee and went through the audit process and our role as auditors, and then answered any questions that we have, and now get to meet with the council. But to start with, we just want to thank you for the opportunity to work with the town. We find that the management team that we associate with as far as transferring information, answering our questions, are very positive and helpful through the audit process. They understand the audit process. In many cases, people don't like the word auditors, which they probably have some reasons for that. But we find that the town really understands the role of the auditors in the financial reporting process, and are very helpful in getting us the information that we need to conduct our audit procedures. With that, I mean, Hawken is going to explain the numbers part of the financial statements, because that is a management responsibility overall for the financial statements. We as auditors are responsible for conducting our audit procedures according to our audit standards, and ultimately to provide an opinion on the financial statements. If we look at page number 2, or the audit report, it outlines the different responsibilities and components of the audit report. The first 2 paragraphs are our opinion, And in a nutshell, we are proposing a clean audit report or a clean audit opinion for these financial statements for the town. What that means is that we have been able to conduct our audit procedures, which include sampling of various transactions based on risk assessments, as well as verifying account balances to third-party documentation, assessing the methodology of estimates and various other components. And as we've been able to complete those audit procedures and conclude on our opinion that these financial statements present fairly in material respects the position of the town and its operations for the year in accordance to public accounting standards. The rest of the audit report provides a little bit more detail. Again, it outlines management's responsibility for the financial statements, that it is management's responsibility to make sure the numbers are complete, that they're accurate, that they're following accounting standards, and then we review those and audit them. It identifies our responsibilities under the auditor's responsibility section. Again, it identifies that we conduct our audit procedures according to standards to allow us to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements as a whole are free of material misstatement, whether it's due to fraud or error. And then ultimately that allows us to attach our opinion. As we go through that, as I said, we identify risk areas, and then we try to address those sufficiently based on our procedures. What that means, if there's certain areas that are more risky, have more risk of an error or a misstatement, that we're going to probably focus more on those areas. Some financial components that are less risky are fairly standard or not subject to a lot of variation. We won't spend as much time on that. We're going to focus on the main areas to try to focus our attention and our resources. As we go through that, we get an understanding of the controls of the town and how they record things and what allows them to do things accurately. We assess the accounting policies to see if those are being followed in the recording. And then we assess the overall presentation of the financial statements to see if they present fairly the transactions and the balances. After all of that, we found that's why we can attach a clean opinion to this, is that the records maintained by the town are reliable, that if there's any information or questions that more information needed, that the accounting system can provide that information on a detailed basis. These financial information items and reports provided throughout the year are important as far as the overall review process to help those with oversight, the council in this case, understand where things are going throughout the year. But overall, we found this to be a very good audit from an efficiency as far as going through the process, having your questions answered. We did not identify any main areas of recommendations as far as areas where controls could be improved. Over the years, those have been tightened up, I feel, through various audits, as well as experience by administration and recommendations as they come up. Those have been implemented, and at this point, it's a very stable accounting environment from our perspective. That is a bit of a nutshell of our role as auditors. Håkan is going to spend some time going over the numbers, but are there any specific questions as far as the audit from council?
No. Okay. I want to thank you, Sean and Patrick, for this audit that you presented to council. Thank you so much for your thorough work on this one. And I really would like to ask the audit committee that is composed of Councillor Brown as the chair, Councillor Bengry and Councillor Drew. If there is anything that I feel we should hear in a closed session at this point without administration or communication officer. Councillor Brown, do you want to maybe speak to that?
Yes, we did not feel that there was anything we needed to go into closed session for.
All right, so in that case, we are thankful to our auditor, and we would ask Håkan to kind of give us the financials for 2019. And thank you, Håkan, for all your good work. Obviously, there's much there to be said.
Håkan, can I jump in real quick? Sean and Patrick, you don't have to stick around anymore, I guess, if you want to listen to the financials again, but otherwise you can sure go and we'll catch up with you and sign these things in the near future.
That's fair. I appreciate that invitation.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you again. We appreciate being able to meet with the audit committee before, but your flexibility in going through this wasn't the ideal year for information with our pandemic, but we appreciate all the help and understanding on that. And if there's any additional questions that may come up, feel free to let us know. We're happy to address those as needed.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Håkan, go
Thank
ahead.
you. Okay. So, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I wanted to start by looking at page 4, the statement of financial position. And this is a snapshot of the position of the town at December 31st, 2019. And in that first section, you see under financial assets, a listing of all of our liquid assets. So of course there's cash and temporary investments, which contains our operating accounts as well as our GICs. And at year end, about half of that is in cash and about half of it is in GICs, which matured in 2020 sometime. And the next line is taxes and grants in place of taxes. And this is the balance of outstanding taxes receivable. So this is a fairly normal balance for us at year end. We levy close to $3.6 million in taxes each year. And so this is a fairly low balance and normal. And maybe just a quick comment on that. So whereas we have $107,000 for taxes receivable, we are also holding over $600,000 in prepaid property taxes.
Mhm.
So that amount is reflected further down in deferred revenue.
Håkan, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Of that taxes and whatever, how much is that business taxes? Unpaid business taxes?
I don't know.
Yeah, Håkan, I probably have that breakdown somewhere, but not in front of me, Councillor, sorry.
Thank
Is it
you.
like 22%, 24%? Isn't that what?
Well, as
No,
far
I
as
was
what's
looking at my-
unpaid, what's outstanding, I just don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's not something that we break down on the financials. So yeah, sorry, I don't know.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you.
Jill would be able to give you that figure. She
I'm
gave
just
you,
concerned about our businesses, during this crisis.
Well, Jill gave us that breakdown not that long ago, and I should remember, but I don't exactly remember.
Mayor,
But yes,
but wouldn't it be on 2019, it would be on the next 2020.
yes. For the impact. Yes, Jeff wants to speak to that.
I found my sheet quick. The one Jill gave me, now this was at the end of February. 30,000 of that was commercial, but I know that 7,400 of it has since been paid. So 23,000 and change or so is commercial. The rest is residential.
So we're sitting pretty good.
Yeah,
Never liked to, yeah.
it's really not so much different for the past 9 years. It always has been between 95,000 and about 107, 108,000. It
Exactly.
always has been within that bracket.
Thank you.
How can carry on? Thank you.
Okay. So the next line would be our trade and other receivables. So like our water, sewer, garbage, electrical. This is higher than it was last year. We had quite a bit of receivables this at the end of 2019 from some custom work that our electrical department had done. And so that was the main difference this year. Land held for resale, this doesn't change a whole lot from year to year. We have 20 or 30 parcels or so throughout town that are available for sale. So that's what that balance is. And then of course our investment portfolio that we have with Wood Gundy. So all of that totals $6.5 million in financial assets. And then on the liabilities side, we have our regular trade accounts payable. And then the employee benefit obligation represents the accrued vacation payable. So if everybody were to quit at once, we'd have to pay that out. Deferred revenue, this is the prepaid taxes from our TIP program. Seems like every year we get a few more people on TIP. Usually we have a balance a year end of 600,000 and change. And this year is up a little bit for that. And the rest of that is grant revenues or grant monies that we've received but have not spent yet. And then of course
Hawken,
yep.
This is Councillor Barnes here. Can I ask you a question? Just back up just a little bit. Under financial assets investments, have you heard any rumblings about the stock market? I know we got Wood Gundy looking after them. I have some concerns about where markets are going and how the investments are holding up. Have you looked into that yet at all or heard any kind of rumblings about that? Because I was talking with somebody just the other night and they're concerned they have an estate planning that they're working on and they've already lost quite a bit of money, you know, and this is in an estate. And so I'm wondering if you heard anything at all.
You want me to speak to that, Hawken?
Yeah, perfect.
So municipalities are only allowed to invest in certain types of investments, and generally equity positions in companies is not one of them.
Yeah.
So we're not very susceptible to market up and down. So for example, we just had last week, I believe we had $1.3 million of bonds that came to term. We purchased another 1.3 million in CIBC bonds, and we have to keep it to MGA approved investments. We will see some volatility based on the redemption value of bonds because this crisis is going to impact that. But I don't think we certainly won't see the ebbs and flows of equity stock markets, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Hawken, if you want to pick up on the long-term debt.
Yeah, I just barely logged into our Wood Gundy account. Looking at it right now, and the market value of it is $3,033,000.
So we're doing fine.
Doing okay then. Thank you, Hawken.
Yeah, everyone's concerned though, right? So it's a good question. So the net financial assets of the town at year end are $4,728,000. So what that means is if we were to liquidate all of our, if we were to pay off all of our debts, our short-term or long-term debts, we would still have $4,728,000 available, which is an excellent financial position.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we also have a reserves listing, which totals about $4.6 million. And so we essentially have a designated purpose for almost our entire net financial assets. So I think that's a good thing. And then in the non-financial assets, we have inventory and tangible capital assets. And of course, these are assets that we can't liquidate. You know, they're in the ground. We need them for our operations. So that's why they're in that category. And the bottom line there, accumulated surplus, is $53,617,000. And that just represents the total surpluses that the town has accumulated since inception. And of course, most of that is tied up in our capital assets. So you can see that we grew our accumulated surplus by about $2.6 million since 2018. And that of course is that's our surplus. That's from our surplus in 2019. So I think that's a good segue into the next statement, the statement of operations, which tells us the story of 2019. And I think I'm going to just start down at the bottom, the surplus line. It's the third line from the bottom. In 2019, you see a excess of revenue over expenses of $2,618,000. And that's an enormous surplus. But almost, well, a really good portion of that is from the Gord Atkins development down on the creek.
Right.
So he developed that, and the deal was that we take ownership once of the infrastructure, the road, the water, sewer, and so that happened in 2019, and the total of that was just shy of $1.9 million. So if you take that out of the picture, there's about $700,000 left of surplus, and that's what we added to our reserves listing. If you recall, a couple of meetings ago, I think the reserves listing was presented. And so we increased our reserves in 2019 by that remaining surplus. So most of that surplus is from just frugality. Just we found savings here and there. And there's also some delayed projects that we're carrying forward to 2020. So we're going to bring that into the budget this year. And overall, 2019 was really business as usual. There's always a few outliers or unusual items. In 2019, we were requisitioned for a fire truck. So our share of the fire truck was about $150,000 this year, which is why the fire services amount was so much higher. And like I mentioned earlier, the electrical department did some custom work and brought in about $250,000 in additional income, which was a good thing because the electrical department saw an unexpected high amount in distribution access tariff from Fortis. And so some of the work that Leonard and his department did helped cover or make up for that loss. So other than that, 2019 was sort of, it just sort of hummed along. So I wasn't gonna really get into the details, but if anybody has any questions on that statement, then feel free to ask.
I would have a comment, Hakan.
I have none.
I first of all, I want to congratulate the finance department and you in particular for the abilities that you bring to the table to help us treat our accounting in such a way that is very transparent, and especially when it comes to reserve, to help us to build those reserves that are so important, especially in time like ours. We do not need to rely on external lending or external grant in order to keep our operation afloat in this difficult time. And we're able to do something for businesses and our citizens, taxpayers at large. So thank you so much for presenting such a robust financial position. It's rather remarkable what is able to be done in this small town. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And, you know, I have to say that the administration they make it pretty easy. So it's easy to work with Jeff and Jill and all the others. So, and the auditors as well. So, but it is a robust set of financial statements. We are in a good position, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I wish we could build a few more $1 million in reserves. I know there'll be things coming, but anyway, we'll chip away at it.
All right. Thank you very much. So that is really a nice financial statement. Now you need to have them.
Mayor, why don't you have Hakan talk quickly about the reserves listing? It's a short discussion.
Okay, so that's fine. So I was wondering if that page was coming up. Yes, it is here.
What page is that?
It's up.
It's on your screen.
It's on your screen.
It's
Yeah,
6B in the agenda. Yeah, if you're on your agenda, it's 6B. Otherwise, I got it up here.
Thank you.
Can you see it on the screen, Councillor Barnes?
Yep.
Okay, fine. So, Hakan, if you want to go ahead with it.
Yeah, so a couple of meetings ago, we presented the reserves listing and we were asked to just make a couple of little adjustments to a couple of items. When we presented it, we had $351,000 in reserves for the outfall line.
Right.
And council asked us to instead put that money towards major utility capital and towards a budget carry forward item to mitigate any property tax pressures that we might see in the budget in 2020. So we did that, and you can see there's a $100,000 addition to the general government budget carryover reserves. And then the rest of the amount that we had for the outfall line, we have added it to the major utility capital reserves. There was already a $64,000 and change amount being added to major utility capital. And so with this additional amount, we're adding $315,000. So other than that, this reserves listing is basically the same listing that you saw a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Any questions, councillors?
No.
No?
I do.
Okay, Councillor Barnes, go ahead, please.
Just to me, it's an obvious question. Just where are we at with the repairs to the outfall?
Sure, I'll field that one. We have the design is completed by Stantec, and so the design is at Porter Tanner's to get us an exact number for construction. And then what I'm hoping to do at your next council meeting in 2 weeks is bring you the draft of the borrowing bylaw for when we have an exact quote.
Wonderful.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so Håkan, thank you so much for that financial presentation. It is very reassuring to know that we are in good position financially and that the town has such a robust position and no need to worry at this time. It feels pretty good. So thank you so much for all your hard work with all your team. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
So at this point, Håkan, if you don't need to stay, please carry on with your business. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's go to item 5 on your agenda, adoptions of minutes. So we need a motion to approve the minute. Councillor Bengry wants to approve the minutes of March 24th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yep.
Okay, everybody voted? Councillor
Aye, aye.
Gerry, hear you. Okay, thank you. So they're approved. Under item 6, so bylaw and policies. So what needs to be done at this point? We need to have a motion to approve the 2019 audited financial statement. So let's start here. So Councillor Brown?
So I make a motion to approve the 2019. Oh, he switched my screen. Sorry.
Sorry.
I move to recommend that council approves the 2019.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown, get rid of the recommend part. Sorry.
I'm what?
Don't say the recommend part.
Approve it
Just
directly.
approve it.
Perfect. I move that council approve the 2019 audited
Statement.
financial statement as presented.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, seems to me everybody was in agreement. So this is passed, thank you. And the next one needs to read the same way. Forget the recommend, we need to approve.
I move to approve, that council approve the 2019 reserve listings
As presented,
as
okay.
presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. All right, so those are done. So we have under 7 other business. So the emergency coordination center update, I'm going to ask Jeff to give us the latest update.
Okay, thank you. There's actually, excuse me, just one second. There's not a lot to update since we last met. I've been sitting in on some regional meetings. The biggest issue right now that I think we're getting ahead of is there was concerns from the health sector and then from the municipal sectors about personal protective equipment and being adequate supplies in the province. So we've participated in a, what would be the right word? We've participated with the municipalities in collecting a collective need for personal protective equipment, and that's going through Alberta Health to procure all of that. And it appears that that's been successful. At least I hope it is, because we're sending how many tons of it to other provinces.
Yeah.
So I am told that that was successful and that we should start seeing a number of PPE items. Now, we were okay in the town. We were a little bit low on a couple of items, but we still have inventories of everything. And now this is particularly for our water wastewater guys, really is who's using it. So we're fairly okay there. Marie just emailed me. I'm sharing my screen, so I won't pull up all my emails. But Marie and I have just started to set the agendas for our municipal management agency subcommittees. So our government, business, volunteer, and healthcare sector meetings. So Marie was drafting the agendas today and just sent those to me. So those will be starting right away. And then that's about it for now. I'm a little concerned that collectively we're just getting a little bit complacent because we still haven't seen active cases here. So we're going to be reiterating with our staff and maybe doubling down on some messaging. As you heard, golf courses were not deemed essential, so we're not currently going to be opening. Well, we're still going to make preparations. Miles is going to fertilize next week and start keeping things up, but we're only going to have 3 staff there. That's all we're going to do for now until we can open. And other than that, that's a quick update on the pandemic.
All right. So do you want to talk about also the Blood Tribe, their curfew that they had?
Sure. So the Blood Tribe extended their curfew to all members. It was just youth until yesterday. So now it's all members. I sent letters to Fast Gas, Red Rooster, and Husky to ask them if they would consider closing at the same time as the curfew. I've heard back from Red Rooster. I haven't heard back from Fast Gas or Husky, but I'll be contacting them tomorrow if I don't hear from them. And so we're going to try and contribute that way, and that would be much appreciated by the Blood Tribe. So we're just going to see what the attitude of those business owners is. Something there.
What was the response by Red Rooster?
So I had a great conversation with John. John is willing. His concern was that his staff don't want less hours. So, he's got entry-level staff that don't want to see their hours reduced. So he is concerned about doing that. So, but he said that if there was a community initiative to help support that he would support that with us.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Councillor Bengry?
Yes. During our police meeting, we talked about our vagrancy and accumulation of people on the main street. That is still happening. Is going to be some kind of a breaking up part of that situation, Jeff?
So once again, social distancing is not the law. You and 20 friends can go stand hand to hand all down Main Street should you choose. I don't advise it, but you legally can. And so we've seen actually a precipitous drop in the number of people on Main Street, not sometimes better than others, but generally it's a lot quieter. The Moses Lake Gym is accommodating folks out there. So we're just reminding those folks, trying to encourage them to distance. But we don't have any tools to go and force them to stand 6 feet apart from each other.
Thank you.
Councillor Selk?
Jeff, do you receive the minutes of the town hall meetings that they have with ministers, with different mayors, reeves, elected representatives? Because I got a copy from Peter Casarella a couple of days ago, and there's some interesting things in there.
I have one from Municipal Affairs from last week that's sitting printed on my lectern. I haven't read yet, but otherwise I don't recall getting other ones.
Okay, well, it might be the same thing, but it's minutes of a call-in town meeting that Municipal Affairs sponsors, and they gather a bunch of ministers.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of items in there that I found interesting that may or may not pertain to our particular situation. One of the things that they talked about was shovel-ready programs that Municipal Affairs is looking for. They want to know if we've got things that are on the go, and I'm wondering about our municipal outfall line project, whether or not they would consider that. Well, we've already contributed to it originally. Why would we contribute to the repair? But is that considered shovel ready? And also the twinning of our, our storm sewer across the creek, under the creek? Is that
sanitary there? Yeah,
that we could get participation on.
Yeah, I'll look at that. I'm on a call. I'm on one of those very calls tomorrow at 5. Okay. Municipal Affairs is hosting another one tomorrow, so I will certainly do a little homework on that.
Yeah, because just some of the questions that were asked by other mayors and reeves, I just don't want us to be left in the dust, because a lot of the cities are already rubbing their hands thinking they're going to jump on this with like 20 projects that they think are shovel ready.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know there's $2 billion approved, I think, is what they've said from the province. Yeah.
Yeah, they said they were doubling their capital budget for this year so that they get people back working.
What I'm hoping, what we'll need to see is what programs that's running through, whether it's federal gas tax fund, whether it's MSI, we'll see, and we'll know a little more. But yeah, I'll keep a finger on the pulse.
Okay. Another question or comment, if I could, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So in that same meeting, the Reeve from the County of Warner was talking about basically masks and stuff like that. And he said that the Hutterite colonies in his county have volunteered to mass produce masks for citizens in their communities because they can't get their hands on any. I'm curious if the County of Warner has had that same offer, if they've approached the numerous Hutterite colonies that we have in town to produce cloth masks for citizens who may or may not want one.
Okay. I hadn't heard that, but I'll check with Murray on that and see if he could contact the colonies.
Well, I thought it was a nice gesture from the colonies in that county, and we certainly have enough Hutterite colonies that if they were to make that gesture, that would be nice.
Great. I'll check that out.
As long as you don't mind wearing black and polka dotted masks.
That's right.
Councillor Brown?
So on that, with what Councillor Selk said, I know that Sharon Quinton and her group of ladies that do the quilting, they have got a schwack of masks that they started sewing last week, and they are outfitting many places, hospital, people that need them. They are just volunteering and making all of these masks for, I can't remember how many she said they were making. They're just going nonstop creating these masks. So I know that, I think it's the Quilters Guild, and they're on top of doing masks. So I do know there are some people within this community that are doing that.
The Blood Tribe also has an initiative similar to this one.
Perfect.
Councillor Selk?
So Jeff, you were talking about personal protective equipment and whether or not there's a big enough supply.
Yep.
I'm curious with the Premier's generous offer of shipping it off to Quebec and Ontario and BC. Why are we concerned that there isn't enough supply in this province?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And it's one that's come up about 30 times in the last 2 days in the Alberta Emergency Management Circle, because last week all the discussion was, hey, we've got to procure this stuff. There's lead times. We don't know what we'll have. But now this week they're saying, yeah, get your orders in and we're going to be okay. So we'll see.
Huh.
Okay.
Councillor Court?
Yes, on a different tack, there's been a lot of misconception about what is going on at the Flamingo Motel. I wonder if there's a way of getting the correct information out there of what's really happening there, because I've heard a lot of really weird things from people that they think is going on there.
Jeff, do you want to address that?
Well, I explained last time what was going on there, but I can talk with Kevin Cowan about some messaging we can jointly put out, though, Councillor.
We could get out to the public is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a person in the general public who had a misconception, so I made sure that they knew what was really going on there. So sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there.
I'll touch base with Blood Tribe Health, Councillor Court, and see if we can agree on some joint messaging on that facility.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we thank you, Jeff. We're going to go to 7B. Those were recommendations from CCW. So first of all, we have the COVID-19 measures, and in order to be able to do what we want to do, we need to have a bylaw in place for a tax waiver. And I would recommend that we only do first reading. Let's not do any more than that. We have time to be able to put second and third reading. And Jeff is having a meeting, at least a video conference, with the government regarding that very item as to what is a proper procedure. We believe we have the right one, but just in case if we don't, passing the first bylaw will allow us to make amendment before the second and third reading. So, Jeff, do you want to talk about this one?
You bet. So, when we were working on this last week, as far as the utility waivers and the receivable waivers and those things, we can do that by resolution. That's fine. But when it comes to waiving the tax, the town has a tax penalties bylaw, and so we have to do it by bylaw. Now, one of the tricky things here is the province came out and said that they were going to defer the education tax for non-residential properties, which left us in the office saying, how the heck are we going to do that? So we're going to defer a portion of tax for certain properties. But as we got looking at it last week, and by the way, the province has not put out much guidance on this yet. And like the mayor said, they're going to do a webinar, I think tomorrow or the next day on it. But what they came out and said is you can do, if you're already doing some relief measures, as long as the relief equals 6 months, you can just have an equivalent bylaw. So that's what we're doing. So you've agreed to waive the July penalty, thereby not making any penalties until October 1st. All of the time frame for these waivers is April 1st. So we've effectively waived the education portion of business tax for 6 months. That's just what we've done by deferring until October 1st. So our theory is we don't have to do anything particularly different, except we do have to amend our bylaw. So as far as your relief measures, if you look on the screen here, you can move to waive your utility bills. You can move to waive your 1% per month interest fee. You can move to waive the overdue business license penalties, and I should speak to that a little bit longer. And and you can move to have all the deferral programs on the July council meeting. But I'm recommending that we just do first reading on the bylaw, because if we bring it back in 2 weeks, we haven't hit any month-end deadlines to apply penalties. We're fine. So we can have it all in place by the end of the month. So
okay, so Jeff, do you have the motion in place somewhere that we can get the proper wordings?
So right here on the screen now, with the exception of the yellow part, starting at 2 down, I think if you use those motions, you would be in pretty good shape.
All right, so you want to do them separately?
Correct, but I'd like to explain number 4 for just a second.
Please,
and this had to do with the business license penalties. So we went and looked at who was still outstanding, who hadn't paid, and all of them were non-essential businesses. So they're all closed. So everybody in arrears is currently closed. So when we looked at the resolution, we looked at, you could entertain a resolution to waive the overdue business license penalty for the non-essential businesses that are closed. The regular business license fee will be due to the town within 30 days of reconvening regular business. And then any penalties under the business license bylaw for non-payment would be stayed until 30 days after they start operating again. That's what we were trying to get at, is when they start operating, if they just pay the fee, fine. But if they go more than a month after they reconvene operations, then they got to pay the fee and the late penalty.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was the intention of it. Whether that, I think it'll work, because again, this is a small amount. We're not having to chase down hundreds here. You know, we've got 20, I think, 24 maybe.
Okay.
So that's how we worded it.
All right. So Jeff, the way we're going to proceed, we're going to have motions from item 2, 3, 4, 5.
Correct.
Separate motions. And the motion for the number 1, we'll do it.
Would be first reading of 1688, tax penalty bylaw.
Okay. As for the other one, we just do motions for them.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So councillors, maybe if you all take a turn, you 5 of you. Okay, Councillor Court, do you want to take one?
Yes, I will move to waive all penalties on utility bills for the municipal services through July billing cycle.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
So we need, Councillor Drew, do you want to do the next motion? It's
So
1%.
number 3. Yeah, I move to waive the 1% per month interest fee for all municipal receivables through the July billing cycle.
Any questions? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Barnes, do you want to go ahead with item 4?
I move to waive the overdue business license penalty for all non-essential businesses that are closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The regular business license fee will be due to the town within 30 days of reconvening regular business. Any penalties under the business license bylaw for non-payment will be stayed until after the 30-day operating period.
All right, I didn't hear you comment on any of those, so I would imagine you are in agreement with them.
I'm fine with them all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Councillor Bengry, go ahead with number 5.
I move to have all waiver and deferral programs on the July council meeting agenda for review.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now, Shem, you need to leave me with, this one. So Councillor Brown, maybe if you want to do first reading of bylaw 1688, the tax penalty bylaw.
Sorry, my internet's froze.
Can you do it from the screen? Oh, you don't have it.
We can hear you, Councillor, okay? Maybe she can't hear us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So who can, well, it would be nice if she could hear us. So she
Councillor
could.
Selk could do it.
I can move that. I move first reading of
Okay, I'm
bylaw.
back. I can hear. Oh, sorry, it just said my internet.
Oh, are you still there, Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Can you move first reading of bylaw 1688 tax penalty bylaw, please?
Perfect. I would make a motion to approve bylaw number 1688, tax penalty bylaw.
First reading.
First reading.
Okay. Any question regarding that bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. So this is a business that we needed to do under the COVID-19 measures. Now, if you go under 7B, 2 municipal affairs and ACP letter, we're going to bring it up there. So if you remember at the last meeting, we had put a recommendation forward to council to have a letter written regarding the ACP grant money, for the approval of the ACP grant money. So now what we need to do, we need to do 2 motions, funny enough. One, because we need to recommend to council to send the letter to municipal affairs, thanking them for the approval. And the other one is to send that letter. So if you look at it, you have those 2 motions there. So, Councillor Selk, do you want to maybe do the first portion of those motions regarding the ACP grant?
Move to recommend council send a letter to municipal affairs thanking him for the approval of the ACP grant money.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we need to have somebody recommend to send the letter. Councillor Drew,
Well, hold, Mayor, if I could real quick.
go ahead.
So why don't you just pass this other recommendation from CCW? And
Okay.
then we can look at each of those letters. And again, you don't have to have the recommend in this motion. You can just send the letter in response.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So you want to do the Carlson Skating Club letter?
Let's get those out of the way and then we'll go to the actual letters.
Okay, all right.
So I can move
Councillor Drew?
that council send a letter in response to the Karts and Skating Club addressing some of their concerns and to ask them to participate financially in fixing the concerns.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. So that's good enough. So Jeff, do you want something else at this point with those letters or not?
Yes, I do. So I recognize this was redundant, but now that you have ratified your committee motion, now the letters are in front of you. See, I produce them just that quick. You ask for them, boom, done. So now you need to make a resolution to send them.
Okay. So somebody, go ahead, Councillor Barnes, you wanted to do something?
I move to send the letter to
Minister Madhu?
Minister Casey Madhu regarding the money,
Is
Thank
it-
you. the ACP grant.
Okay, letter, thank you.
Yep.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I thank you very much. All right, so let's move to the next letter. So like magic, it just appears.
I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Selk.
So we've agreed to send this to the figure skating club.
Yes.
Do we need to send a similar letter to minor hockey and to rec hockey, suggesting that they also show up at the rec board and talk about the issues at the rink and possibly participate in helping to fix them?
Sure, we could do that. What do you want? Do you want copies?
Or I have another recommendation.
Yeah, I think maybe.
We don't necessarily have to send them a letter. We'll send this one, but when the rec board meets, they should invite those other parties to come and discuss the issue with the whole rec board. And then an invitation could be extended to those other entities to participate in helping to fix the facility.
Okay, I think that would be better if we were to do it this way. Let's deal with this item first. Councillor Brown?
No, just to add to that, I mean, we do have people from the ice
We lost you.
arena on our rec board. So they are part of our conversations in regards to it. But I think it's great to send them a letter, you bet.
Okay, so let's deal with this letter first. So any comments regarding this letter? I appreciate Jeff doing them on my behalf. Thank you so much. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right. So Councillor Selk, can you keep it under 9, under question, if you want to do a recommendation to have a letter? Would that work?
I don't think you need to send a letter. It's just a suggestion to the rec board that they invite the other entities involved
Okay.
in the rink.
All right, so maybe Councillor Brown, if you can take that in.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, under 7E, business arising from delegation, I think we dealt with both items.
Yeah, I don't think you have
There's
anything.
6, and I don't think we need to do any more regarding that. Committee and other reports, I don't think there is anything to worry about. Under 9 questions, unless you have specific questions for administration,
Mayor, can I just bring up something here?
please go ahead.
Councillor Brown, you had asked me to get something for the agenda, that history of correspondence with the Blood Tribe. I have the dates and resolutions of everything gathered, but I didn't have a chance to get the letters today, so I will email all of you that once I get it together.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just so you know, in your term, there's been about 6 pieces of correspondence sent to the Blood Tribe, but I'll get you them all here soon and compile them.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
can I
Councillor
give you
Bengry,
a quick update on Chinook Foundation?
do you want to do that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Both the Chinook Foundation Lodge and Diamond Willow Terrace Lodge are in complete lockdown situations. And the Temple City Villa is an independent living seniors housing. They're in a no visitor situation, but it's being compromised by the residents allowing people to come in through that locked door and visiting with them. We're trying to cover that. Our CAO, Kim Schnorr, and myself are in constant daily communications with Alberta Seniors Housing, Alberta Health, and the government of Alberta Housing Authority. So we know what's happening. There's going to be a letter to go out to the tenants of the Temple City Villa and expressing our concerns. Tables and chairs have been put up. Exercise room has been locked in the Temple City Villa, and we're getting some kickback on it. And as Councillor Drew is aware, that he got a text this morning or a message this morning, and he referred it to myself, and I've been in reply to those letters. And so, just to give you an update, we are in a lockdown position. We're in a good, healthy position with our staff. Our cleaning has been upgraded to 2 or 3 times a day, wipe downs on all the common areas and switch plates and handrails and everything else. So we're looking, hopefully we're protecting our residents.
Okay, Councillor, thank you so much for the update. Councillor
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Yes,
go
I have
ahead.
I have a question for Councillor Bengry concerning the Chinook.
Yes.
Are they still allowing people to move in there?
At this point in time, we're just taking import charges, and if they meet the criteria and they haven't been exposed, yes, but there's a minimum of how many people can help with that,
right?
That move-in, yes.
Okay, that's good, because I know somebody's moving in there on Monday, and I just want to make sure everything was still above board. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding that item? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. So under 10 correspondence, Minister Casey Madhu, the Alberta Municipal Affairs is just letting us know about the education tax deferral for the businesses. And that is about it for today.
Mayor?
So, yes?
I have a question to ask. I noticed that our spray park is really working down there. They got a construction crew down there and so forth. What's happening as far as this pandemic is concerned with our town crews being down there and so forth?
Okay, those are very, very good questions. And I think I will refer that to Jeff as it is his staff.
Sure, yeah. So BDI started gathering a little bit today with equipment. They're going to start excavation soon. We had them do a screening of any of their staff that are coming to site, as far as symptoms or exposure to those who may have been exposed to the virus. Of course, that's only as good as the truth they tell. But we still practice social distancing for many of them. We're not working on that crew, so we'll have guys. We had some guys down there today moving some lines and doing a few things, but we're not using their equipment. We're not sharing equipment with them. We don't do anything like that. So
good.
They bring their own stuff.
Thank you.
Good enough? Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you so very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Stay healthy and stay safe.
You need a motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Yes, and we have Councillor Palm. That is so good. Thank you. I was waiting for someone to do something. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.